All right, episode two of Between State Lines. And I don't know about you, Steph, but that song makes me want to go out in the woods and like fight some bears or like some mountain lions, like pump you up and get you going.
I'm so excited that you could hear it. I couldn't hear it on my end, so I was just vibing off your vibes.
So that's so embarrassing by me. Oh man. Okay,
No,
well
I
I'll
can't wait
fix
to
that for
see.
next time. I'm just over here like jamming out. Our audio listeners, I'm here like vibing, like doing little air drums, and yeah, Steph could not hear any of that, so that was
I was
pretty
digging it.
awesome.
I was
You were
digging it.
digging.
Secondhand.
Secondhand vibing. I love it. But yeah, I like it makes me want to run into the woods and fight a bear. But like, have you ever thought about how they tell you how to defend yourselves? I guess we're not just not die in a bear attack. Like you're supposed to play dead, and you're supposed to like. Well, I guess before you get to that point, you're supposed to make yourself big and yell at the bear and throw things like that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I don't know how to respond in this situation.
I think that it's like it's different depending on the color of bear.
Okay.
Like I think that maybe it's the black bears or the smaller bears, and so those are the ones that maybe you're supposed to get big, and then like the grizzly bears, you might just need to play dead, but also you might die. I could have this just totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure it depends on what color the bear.
Because I feel like I've heard that too. Like, I think brown bear is more dangerous. I don't know. I have to look it up, but
I think there's a
but
rat.
there's yes, there probably is, and I probably just don't know it. I'm like a rookie, and like I go see a bear, which makes me just think about. I don't know if you saw this like 3 years ago. There was that cougar video where he was out hiking, and then a cougar was stalking him.
That's terrifying. I have a friend that ultra runs out in the woods by herself, and I track her location every weekend because I'm terrified of that happening to her. Like I constantly am like, okay, where's Ashley? Is Ashley alive? Okay, looks like she's moving. We're good. We're good. She's in a different city than she was earlier. Okay, because yeah, she just goes out and runs in the woods. She loves it.
Okay, but like, what if? And hear me out. What if her moving on the GPS is like a bear, like taking her to their destination to be eaten? Like,
You're right. I need word context. You probably need a password, something to make sure that because what
right?
if the bear's texting me back?
The
I need
bear's
to
like,
hear
no, no,
that.
no, it's fine. She's okay. We're taking great care of her. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, that has crossed my mind before, not necessarily that it was a bear, but what if I'm being bamboozled by somebody?
Honestly, I think in that situation though, in the bear attack, I don't know if I would how I'd respond. Like, okay, so I am deathly afraid of bees and hornets, even though I've never been stung, and everyone tells me just don't move. And the first thing I do is when I see a wasp is like swat at it and
Yeah.
like run away like an idiot.
Yeah, I'm allergic to bees. I've been stung twice in my life. It gets worse every time. So yeah, I do the same thing. I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Bee, no, I'm gonna act crazy and I'm gonna run for it.
So you've been stung many times. So what is your worst reaction? Like how bad has it gotten?
Well, the first time it was just like it hurt really bad. I had no idea that I was allergic to bees. The next time I was stung, it my foot was swollen for days. I remember going into like the local pharmacy and being like, I need some Benadryl, and the pharmacist said, that's not gonna help you. And I just burst into tears and walked away and, walked it off. But I think that's like being a female in this healthcare system, like you gotta walk it off.
Yeah, no one believes you, no one thinks you're actually ill, and no one thinks you need anything. It's just all in your head.
It happens all the time. Like my kids will need antibiotics. They'll both have strep and yeah, be on their antibiotics. And then I'll go into the doctor and be like, I haven't been feeling good. I've been down for the count. They're both on antibiotics for strep. Just want to make sure if I need to get on it. And they're like, just a virus. Good luck. But then they'll send me home with a packet that's like, look for these symptoms for untreated strep. I'm like, okay.
And I feel like that's how the zombie apocalypse will happen. Is like the person will just go home with no medicine, and like bam, next day they are a zombie, and here we have the World War Z and everything going down.
If I just secure one of these weeks, it was me. It was, yeah.
I will note that, and I will make sure that I don't
Yeah.
go anywhere near your state and be like, all right, we're gonna go off radar here.
I mean, that's a little too late for that. You're like right next door.
That is true. That is true. I know we're not that far away. But speaking of zombies, I think today, last week in a clip that got edited out, we had talked about how you like spooky stories, spookiness, and you go to bed listening to these things. Beyond me how you do that, but that's too much anxiety for me, but you do that. So I don't know. I just kind of want to understand, like, do you believe in the paranormal? Do you like believe in ghosts, Bigfoot, cryptids?
I would say it's a healthy dose of skepticism, but I absolutely love it. I don't want to come across any of that stuff. I love the stories. I think it's the tone of voice, though, that helps put me to sleep at night. Something about their tone of voice when they're telling the story, about that shadow being in the corner. I'm like, yeah, like that puts me right to bed. I never remember the scary stories. And sometimes I'm like, this was 7 minutes long, and somehow I didn't hear any of this. So yeah, I think it's just the way they do it is so soothing. But I would say yes, I have to have at least some sort of belief in it, and also a really healthy dose of skepticism there too. But prefer not to encounter it myself.
Okay, well, here I have an idea for you. So I was on our No Sleep and reading some stories there this week. And one of the stories I read was called The Left Right Game. Not sure if you've ever heard of that at all. It's supposed to be an actual game that you play, kind of like the elevator game, which I don't know if you've heard of that one before. Yeah. Okay.
Oh
So
yeah.
so it's in that same vein where in this game you essentially start at your house, drive on the road, and as soon as you get to the main road, you take the first left that you hit. You go outside, first left turn, and then the immediate next right turn. And you do that for every single next right, left in that order exactly. And eventually, at some point, you get to another dimension, to another dimension, another like area in the realm of existence. So like there are weird things that happen. So like in this story, there is a hitchhiker that you will see on the road, and you need to stop and pick him up. If you don't pick him up, he just pops into your car, just for shits and giggles. And then he tries to start a conversation with you. And no matter what he does or says, you're not supposed to talk to him. And you don't know why. Like, there's no reason for it. But, like, if you don't follow the rule, things are going to happen. Bad things are going to happen, rather.
That's scary. It reminds me of the lady in white. Like if somebody pops up in the back of my car, I'm ignoring them, but I'm getting the hell out of that car too.
Which, and then, yeah, so it goes off in other side quests, too. So it's like, it's a really, really interesting, like, terrifying thing. And it's good to listen to when you're trying to go to sleep, and it definitely is a great story. But you mentioned the lady in white, so I looked up some interesting urban legends or myths that happen around the country, different states, and pulled the stories, made some notes. And the first I actually have firsthand experience with, not necessarily a ghost appearing in my car, but the story behind it. So it took place in Virginia, and it's called the Walney Road Hitchhiker, and it's out of Chantilly, Virginia, which is just outside DC. As the story goes, there's a hitchhiker on this 3 to 5 mile road who, in the 70s, I believe it was, tried to get a ride on the road at like midnight and got hit by a drunk driver, and the drunk driver was never caught, and the guy died, obviously. And every now and then, now, when you go on that road, if you see the hitchhiker, you're supposed to stop. You get 3 chances to pick him up. If you don't pick him up for the third time, he just pops in your car and runs you off the road.
I
Yeah,
don't like that we have to pick up a hitchhiker.
it's always the hitchhikers.
Yeah. I as no, I'm pretty sure you're never supposed to pick up a hitchhiker. I mean, I've been a hitchhiker before, but it's been a long time. Like that was a different time and place.
Wait a minute, you were a hitchhiker?
I was
Okay,
a I was
we need to go off
a
in this a little.
Yeah, I was a fun teenager. I just went on random adventures, and sometimes they led me to places that required a ride from a stranger. And yeah, I've definitely hitchhiked before.
That sounds terrifying. I'm glad you're still alive to tell the story.
Oh, now that I'm into all of like I've been into the like serial killer podcasts, I'm like, I'm really lucky to be alive. The- yeah, the amount of times that I've been picked up in random places in Oregon and then heard terrifying, like terrifying stories about serial killers in Oregon. I'm like, okay.
The West Coast is apparently like some kind of harbor for serial killers.
Especially around I-5, and I love to be around I-5.
And you love hitchhiking.
Well, yeah. Actually, one time I did walk from where my mom lives to like another town, like It was probably a good 20 minutes down I-5, and I walked along I-5 in the fields and like hopped over irrigation places. It was just me and one of my best friends. She just wanted to wish a guy happy birthday. We made it. It was a 9-hour walk. And yeah, we ended up needing a ride because we weren't going to get there in time. It was like 3 p.m. We were only probably like 15 minutes from my mom's house if we would have driven. And our feet were all blistered, and we went to like a little mini mart and used our $3 on like 2 burritos and a drink. Because back then that actually you could get that for probably like $3. And this kid walks out and we were like, hey, any chance you can give us a ride? And he actually like took us to a house to drop off his dog and then took us to where we needed to go, which was, we were probably about halfway there. But yeah, we went into a Walmart, picked up some new shoes, and it was wild. Like some friends came and picked us up and took us back home, but it was the most wild adventure. I just really wanted to skip school that day. She said I would walk 500 miles for him, and I said, would you? Let's do it.
Apparently she would, and she did. Oh my God.
Luckily, it wasn't 500 miles because we sure didn't make it. I will look up how long that was actually, because in my mind, it just felt like a million years. Like, especially being along I-5, like they don't have walkways over there. It's farmland, irrigation. I think the first 3 minutes walking down the road, somebody threw a Coca-Cola at us. Yeah, it was rude. It hit me in the shoulder. I'll never forget.
It's possible he just wanted to make sure you weren't a hitchhiking ghost, though. I mean, maybe I'm gonna give him the
Yeah,
benefit of the doubt.
that's true. You know what? Yeah, yeah. I no longer hold this grudge against this random person.
I have solved this long feuded relationship you have with this random guy.
I tell you, it's 20 years in the making, so thank you.
Wow, that's interesting. That's crazy. I feel like we need a whole episode dedicated to like your youth and what you did as a kid. Like that just sounds like we're scratching the surface of your juvenile years.
Yeah, I also was into really spooky stuff. So there's a lot of places around the area that we were just like, let's go explore this. And we went for it. I think one of them was like there was a pizza girl that went to go deliver a pizza out in the middle of the woods. And there's actually a sign of her abduction site. And we would go out there. And if you go along the road, there's a little like path that it's supposed to be like a, so you park there and you can go along the paths, and then there's this abandoned house in the middle of the woods, and they call it Psychos. And there's a couple of reasons why they call it that, because I guess like in the 70s maybe there was a bus full of inmates that might have been from like some sort of psych ward that they lost them out there and they had to go out and find them in those woods. So I think that's why they originally called it Psychos. But this pizza girl up and disappeared, and there's her abduction sign, and we would just go explore out there all the time, just for fun.
You know, I can't say I would do that, but you know,
Somebody invited me recently, and I said, absolutely not. I am not the same person as I once was. No.
you have a lot of priorities in your life.
I have kids now. No, thank you. I'm not going to go sit. Because I think one time we went out there on Easter and we saw little black bunnies everywhere. And it was just me and one of my girlfriends. And we're like, let's leave. Let's leave. That's too much of a coincidence. Feels like an omen. Let's get out of here.
That is a bad omen for sure. Um, oh, wow. Okay. Well, speaking of hitchhikers, so this story, in Virginia, right? So the hitchhiker pops in your backseat, runs you off the road. Great story. So probably this is where I come into play. About 8 years ago, 10 years ago, I used to live out in Virginia, just down the road from this mythical road. And it is, like I said, 3 to 5 mile stretch of road. It's not very long. It's maybe a 10-minute drive. And since the story originated, it's gotten a lot of upgrades. So like gotten built up. There's houses there now. It's not as woodsy, and it's kind of like suburban now. But my friend and I decided, hey, it's 2 in the morning. Let's go drive on this road and see what actually happens. And I'm not gonna lie, it was my idea. I was the one that said, let's see what happens. Um, and my friend, I've known this guy for like, I don't know, 20 years now, 25 years now, and he gets spooked very, very easily. And so when I said let's hop in my 2002 Camry, he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then he decided to fill my entire back seat up with like a fan, a box fan, some laundry baskets because apparently a ghost won't get back there if there is stuff back there. They'll obey the rules of the car. If it's no vacancy, it's no vacancy.
Shame on him, because then that means the ghost sits with him riding shotgun.
This is where he thought ahead. He said, "Okay." Then we got closer. We pulled off the road. He said, "I'm going to sit in the back seat. So I'm going to take that seat, fill the left-hand side, so the my behind me, with everything that's in the entire back. So there's really no room at all. And based on the rules of the story, the hitchhiker won't get in the front seat. So we're fine. Don't worry about it." And so again, like the ghost is somehow just going to obey the rules of this tale and not get in the car. And we drove to the road, went down the road. Not, I won't lie, it's kind of creepy the way it was back 10 years ago, but nothing happened. I didn't see a hitchhiker, unfortunately. Didn't see any ghosts. I was pretty bummed, but it was pretty funny. Like, he got so spooked that he just filled my backseat up with crap.
The ghost is like, oh, can't fit there. Okay, gotta wait for the next one.
They figured me out.
Maybe the ghost doesn't want to be picked up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Maybe the ghost's out there at like 9 p.m.
I should have factored that in. Like, let's get on the schedule with the ghost. Let's figure out what they want to do instead of what we want to do. Let's not be so selfish.
Yeah. I mean, who's out there at 2 in the morning? Anyways, I understand it's close to that witching hour, but yeah, like I feel like if people are telling a story, it's probably that something's going on a little bit earlier in the evening. There needs to be multiple trials here. And did that work? Maybe it's because it was too full. I don't know. But ballsy of him to be in the back seat, because then what if the ghost comes in and sits on his lap?
See, he brought a flashlight for that. Like, this is his other rule. It's like, if I have a flashlight and I shine it on the ghost will disappear. Because, again, ghosts obey the rule that if a flashlight is in play, they're not allowed to be there. Just like when lights go on in your house, ghosts can't be there.
Don't they have like flashlights and stuff like on Ghost Adventures and stuff like that? They're actually like ghost hunting. I think they just make it so your flashlight can't turn on. They steal all that power.
Right?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like salt or something. But again, this is part of the experiment.
He could have solved the whole thing. So there's that one, and there's a similar one down the road from there. It's called Marie's Road. And Marie was apparently a 12-year-old girl who back in the 80s was abducted, and she was R-worded and murdered on this road. And apparently, if you drive down that road at, I think it was like midnight again, you will hear her whisper warnings to you, and then again run your car off the road.
Wow. Did you try this one?
I did try this one, and it's even more disappointing than the other one. It's like literally maybe 500 feet of road, and I didn't hear a single ghost. I was really, really bummed. But
did you bring your same friend?
I did, and the car was still full of stuff again. We had to explain to his mom twice why all of her stuff from the garage was in my trunk and backseat.
In your trunk too?
In the trunk too.
They didn't want you knocking on the trunk.
You know, the ghost could use that as a vessel to get in the car, and then we're screwed.
Yeah, but that's what we want. That's what we want. Let's leave all the stuff out just in case. But can you avoid being ran off the road? Because I think that it's very powerful if somebody whispers to you, like, okay, I believe you, but I also don't want to be ran off the road.
Apparently, the only solution, according to this legend, is that if you turn around, and again, it's a 500 to 1,000 feet road, so like you're committing to it, like you're not like you got no turnaround distance. So you're by the time you hear these whispers, you're gone or you're dead.
Wow, yeah, no luck at all. Especially because I don't want to turn around. If I start hearing whispers and stuff, no, I'm like gas pedal to the floor. We're out of here.
Not just whispers, like little girl whispers. That's what's creepier than a little kid whispering to you at midnight when no one else is around. That's creepy as hell. And you don't see anyone in front of you.
Okay, so this reminds me of a story of me and my friends when we were in high school, we used to go to this place called Psychos. No, not Psychos. Sorry, it's a insane asylum. But what was it called? Fairview. That's what it was. Now they've built houses there. I feel equally not great about those houses. But so it was like this big area that had giant buildings, apparently maybe underground tunnels. There were stories about graveyards being there, and then they'd have to move them for the building, but they to like build new buildings, but then they didn't have plans of where these graveyards actually got placed. So like maybe a poltergeist situation. But as young kids, we thought it was a lot of fun to go there and see if we can get in and go drink alcoholic beverages. So we had ways of going on this property, and we went with friends, and it always said there was a security guard that would actually go around the whole property. And so we would just avoid the guy in the truck with the flashlight. But one of the times, all of the guys that we were with were like, we're going to go get the map from the security guard. I don't know how they planned on doing this. That sounded terrifying to me, and I didn't want to get in trouble. And so me and my best friend, we stayed behind, but we weren't going to stay behind in any of those buildings by ourselves. And so we're just like in the middle of this like grassy area surrounded by all these giant buildings with all these windows. And at one point we hear this little girl scream, and we're in the like there's houses, but there's not houses anywhere near us, and it sounds like it's near us. And so we're like freaking out, and so calling on my little flip phone, because that was this like 2004 2005, we're calling on my little flip phone to the guys being like, we need to find you. This scary thing just happened. We don't want to be by ourselves. Where are you? And so they're like, well, we can't see where you are. And they were like trying to see where across this field, because they're off in the distance somewhere. There's another building over here, like in front of us. There's like a huge row of big buildings on the side of us. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to hang up and I'm going to start flashing my flip phone so you can see the light. And they're like, okay, cool, we're going to do that too. So I start doing that, and I see this shadow by this building in front of us, and it looks like it could be like the security guard. It like a guy taller by himself. I'm like, is this my friends? And I'm flipping my flip phone. No, their lights are going off over here. Apparently they were with the security guard over in that area. I don't know, but this man in his hat like turn around and he disappears. And we're like, nope, out of here. Like, absolutely not. Nope, too much has happened. Freaking the fuck out. Sorry, excuse my language. But yeah, freaking the F out. It's still giving me goosebumps to this day, because I was like, I don't ever want to go back. And I did a couple of times, but I never went back into any of the buildings. Like, I had a friend that convinced me to go, and we like climbed one of the slides from one of the buildings up, and it went to nowhere, just like a little caged area, and then you could go back down that same way. But yeah, I was like, nope, this isn't for me. I'm out. After seeing this person disappear, like luckily they weren't really close to us, like they were across the field near this building, but she went too close to home.
I feel like seeing someone, I don't know what it is about hats, seeing someone with a hat, a dark figure with a hat on, makes it so much creepier. I don't know what it is, but the hat just makes it worse.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I used to have this picture in my head of a man wearing one of those hats, walking his dog in my front yard when I was asleep at night. And I've always chalked up to, I think I was like laying on one of my ears and hearing my own heartbeat. And so that was like his footsteps. And I remember that would keep me up when I was a kid, because I would be so scared hearing like these footsteps and imagining this man in a hat with his dog. And to this day, I'm like, what brought this on? And was it actually my heartbeat that I was hearing? And then was it getting scarier because it was going faster at that point? I don't know.
That
The things I think
is
about now.
terrifying. That's terrifying. I speaking of insane asylums, there was one I went to with my same friend, and similar thing. We there's just one building left over, and two buildings have been converted into apartments. And obviously, the building is the third one is as of 10 years ago, it was not used anymore. It was abandoned and pretty much in shambles. Um, And I would say the majority of the entrances are all sealed off. There's like maybe broken windows here and there. And the second floor, the way it's situated is you have that emergency exit from the second floor downstairs in case of a fire. But the three floors do not connect at all. There's no like stairs inside. It's all external stairs. And at the top of those external stairs, obviously there's locks on the door. The cage staircase was actually chained up, so you couldn't even get in there if you tried to. And again, there's no way to get upstairs besides through the outdoor entrances. So we got in through a broken window and we're walking around. I'm taking pictures, recording stuff. It's pitch black in there, obviously. We have flashlights, but so very, very minimal light. And we just stopped and we heard upstairs footsteps. Now you could hear like heavy boots walking, and it was like cement floors, so you could hear the echo through the entire building. And it was clearly right above us. It wasn't anywhere near us, it was just above us directly. And we heard it echoing down the hall, walking back and forth. Decided to F this, we're out of here. It could be some kind of violent person that got in there. We ran outside, out the window, and looked at all the windows outside the building. Saw no one, but you could still hear through the broken windows somebody walking around inside.
No, thanks. I mean, just going from that Fairview experience, because we used to explore all of those buildings. And I remember my friend, he wanted to bring home random things that he found. Like, I think at one point he brought home an owl painting. And like, we went to my friend's house afterwards. My girl, she's my best friend. But we went to her house afterwards, and she's like, absolutely not. Do not bring that stuff in my house. No. And like hearing the actual footsteps, I'd be so scared and taking something home with me.
And you see, so growing up, my mom is and was a huge believer in ghosts, but she took it to the extreme where she's like, I'm psychic, I can tell ghosts are real, I can hear them, I can communicate with them, and like all this, nonsense. All this crazy stuff she told to us as kids. So like as a 10-year-old kid, I believed like our house was haunted and there was a guy. And she one time went with her friend to out there they have obviously Civil War cemeteries and battlegrounds. And so they went to, I think it was Bull Run, which is a pretty bloody battle in the Civil War. And apparently her friend felt like something followed them home, and his name was Clayton. And when they got to my house at like 3 a.m, they popped their key in the door to get in, and the key broke. And it's like, oh, Clayton's home with us. So like for literally probably when I was 10 years old to like, and I moved out, I thought this ghost named Clayton was in our house, haunting us, trying to spook us and scare us.
And your mom can speak with them, but didn't ask him to leave?
Didn't ask him to leave. Instead, what she would do is we'd have seances. We'd sit in the living room and we'd be like, all right, here's a recorder. If anyone's here with us, please knock once. And like no one would knock. No noise at all, nothing. And we even like would leave a recorder out at night. And a side story, this funny story, my mom got so mad at this, but we would leave a recorder out at night, and like it was like 6 hours of nighttime recording, just audio only. And we would listen to it the next day, see if we could catch this Clayton or another ghost in the house. And we got a recording of someone saying, "What's that?" Like it was clear as day, someone speaking words into the recorder, no other noise around it. So we go like probably a year being like, oh man, we got proof of a ghost. And then one day my dad cracks and he says, that was me. I got up at 2 a.m. and went out and went, what's that on the camera? My mom lost her shit. The funniest prank though, he kept it a secret for so long.
Wow, you were bamboozled by your own dad.
The ultimate troll though. It was so funny and yet so heartbreaking. I was like, I guess my subscription to my membership in the Ghost Hunter Society is now withdrawn.
Wow. Yeah, he ruined that for you guys. But I also wonder if dad was also protecting you. Is he secretly saging the house?
Or was he possessed by Clayton?
No.
Oh, we'll never ever know, Dad. Dad, if you're listening to this, are you actually Clayton?
Yes. Shay, have you been possessed for this long? How many years ago was that?
That was probably like 15 years ago, maybe a little longer.
Clayton,
So it's been
living a happy life.
He has. He's been living the high life out there, smoking meats, and
Wow.
that was my life growing up. Was literally just being told ghosts are real, which maybe they are, but like being told they are real, and not only are they real, they're in your house, and they watch you sleep.
That is wild. Like my parents were ultra religious, like don't like nothing about ghosts, don't read about witches. Like Harry Potter was given and taken away pretty quickly. My mom just had to read one page and was like, "Oh, no, that's the kind of stuff that we want you reading." But when I was probably, I want to say I was 8 or 9 years old, we moved into this house and my uncle was coming to visit and he stayed in my room when he came to visit. So I stayed in my little sister's room and I just didn't like this room. I don't know. Something about it was just different from the rest of the house. Like it had laminate floors and felt really hot in the, like, was subject to the heat of the whatever weather was going on. And it was just something off about this room. But I woke up in the middle of the night and I swear I saw a little girl in white. She had dark hair and she was pointing at my sister's window. And I didn't look at the window. I was sitting up. I just knelt down and I cried myself to sleep. So that was my one and only experience as a child. I woke up still like that, like in my crying position, because I did cry myself to sleep. But I woke up like that the next morning. And I don't know what she's trying to show me. I had no interest.
Maybe it was Clayton out there, and she was trying to show you Clayton. She was like, "Hey, there's this ghost from Virginia. He's coming out to wherever this is, or he's here for
San
you.
Diego.
He's coming out to San Diego. He's here for you."
Yeah, this is North San Diego County when I was a kid. I actually told somebody this story in the last couple of days, and they were like, what if she was like trying to show you somebody peeping through your window? And I was like, I literally had no interest in it. I could not tell you what she was trying to show me, but she made me cry.
Yeah, no, no. I honestly would not have any of that. We'd visit my grandma in Maryland all the time, and we would stay in hotels. And there was one night I woke up at probably, like 1 or 2 in the morning, and I saw a guy standing at the edge of my bed. Glasses, hat on, it looked like a hotel uniform, and for the khakis, and like it was a Holiday Inn Express, it was like a Holiday Inn green shirt, and he was standing there looking at me. And as I sat up, he like leaned in to look at me. Again, this is the end of my bed, so like maybe like what 5 feet from my face, and this dude leans in so I can see his face even clearer. And then I scream so loud. Lights go on, parents wake up, he's gone.
Wow. How did you take that? How do you, well, I guess, and your parents must, well, does your dad believe or is it just your mom?
My dad does not believe. My mom's like, "Oh my goodness, you had a ghost experience. You had a supernatural. I bet he died in the hotel." I'm like, "Mom, I'm 10 years old, 11 years old. Can you please not do this?" Like, I'm
Especially, yeah,
terrified.
I just had this traumatic experience. Can you just comfort me?
Right? Like, oh, let's dive into who he is. Like, I don't want to know who he is. Like, F off. Get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sleep, bro.
I haven't had that kind of experience, but I did have one going to the I think it's like a roadway in Portland. Actually, I told somebody this story yesterday because I happened to be in the area. And it was like, huh, if we see a roadway inn, it was somewhere around here. It was I worked at a hotel, and so I got a discount for this hotel for $50. I wanted to go to a basketball game, and so I was just trying to get the cheapest hotel possible. I did not sleep at all that night. It was like I felt like things were trying to take my covers, but it was all in dreams. So it didn't actually happen, but it was just like I had the worst night's sleep, I should say, of my life. And to this day I'm like, no, don't skimp. Don't be cheap on your hotels because you just don't know what you're gonna get.
I wonder if that was sleep paralysis.
Yeah, I read a book, The Tale of the Dueling Neurosurgeons, and they talk about like what happens in your brain when you're going through sleep paralysis, and it's so interesting. Like just like the different things that go on for you to both feel like the paranoid sensations and to not be able to wake and what your body's going through trying to wake you up. It's so interesting. Yeah, it had to have been something like that. I've never experienced anything like it at any other place, but when I was at that roadway inn,
Now I
no.
know. Never staying at a railway inn. That
I'm not
Yeah,
staying at
that
Holiday Inn Express either.
yeah. Well, yeah. There's many reasons why you shouldn't, but that's one of the reasons. Um, yeah, no, sleep paralysis. So like I have looked extensively into that because I'm terrified of having that happen to me. It's like it sounds scary as hell. So I actually, they say that if you lay on your back and that's how you fall asleep, you're more likely to have that happen to you for some reasons, the way your body is positioned. So now I do not sleep on my back. It's always on my sides or stomach. I would never sleep on my back ever. Not happening.
Wow. I had felt like I trained myself to sleep on my back. I used to be a side sleeper. Now I'm going back. There's no stopping me.
Okay, so diving back a little bit into mythical stories that may or may not be real. We're gonna transition over to Maryland for this next one. This one is called The Legend of Goat Man. So half goat, half man. The urban legend, it takes place on a road called Fletchertown Road in Bowie, Maryland. And there were pictures online that made it look really, really creepy. So it's really woodsy, kind of abandoned. No one really goes down there. And that was back in 1978 when this thing started. Um, and yeah, straight out of a horror movie, it looks like you definitely would see ghosts in this road. But apparently it's built up, so maybe he's moved since then. But as the tale goes, Goat Man is a half goat, half man. He wanders the woods and fields of Beltsville or Bowie, Maryland. So he's like swapping towns like 10 miles away, like, just chilling one day.
Traveling a little bit.
Um, Traveling, yeah, gotta get those, you gotta split your killing up into different areas or you're gonna get caught.
Oh yeah, and you got to
Um,
work on that cardio.
or maybe he has a brother, or he
You
could be a
could,
brother, a twin.
yeah. There's many
In
goatmen. We just only caught these ones.
he's a In one variation of his origin story, he was the result of an experiment gone very wrong at the Beltsville Research Agricultural Center, which, for the record, the USDA has several times issued statements saying this didn't happen. You didn't create this goat man. So they've actually addressed it over the years because they have gotten so many questions. But of course, it's the
As you
government;
would.
they're hiding it, as you
Yeah.
would. Um, and so in the 70s when it happened, most of the tails were just missing and dead or headless dogs found. So your dog would go missing and then days later it'd be found dead and headless. And then the story really took off when some teens heard or said they heard strange noises and saw a large creature on the night their dog had disappeared. And those increased significantly from the first report of those teenage girls um, to now, where people apparently see this axe wielding half goat, half man. He attacks cars they drive past. Again, it's usually always between 12 and 3, never at 5 o'clock on a weekday. It's always like late at night, and always in this one road, or I guess also in Bowie, Maryland.
Interesting. I mean, axe wielding, I guess, gives me pause. Like, okay, maybe goat man. That can just be another variation. But doesn't it kind of sound like a skinwalker? I know you're not supposed to use that terminology, but I think in many podcasts they give them different names because if you say it, it's supposed to bring it on, especially like in Native American kind of legends. Yeah, I'm Native myself, and that's something I'm like, ooh, not supposed to use those words, but yeah, it sounds very much like that. Is it, like look out for deer that look just,
So I guess I think the official name is Wendigo, or is that something else?
I think I've heard either it can be like either or, but I've also heard of that one being like more southern United States. Like I thought that was like more like Texas,
Okay, that would
but
make
I
sense
don't
then.
know.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert, but at this point, I've probably heard too many stories that's hard to kind of differentiate.
Steph, we expect you to be the skinwalker or Wendigo hunter for the United States. Like, you're supposed to be the Sam and Dean Winchester in real life.
I mean, I wish I could, but that terrifies me. Just the stories that I've heard and the size are so scary. I can learn as much as I can. We should give them a different name, though. Something that we can just call them so that we're not using that word.
We will call them skin changers. Is
Ooh,
that different enough?
can we call them like body?
Or there we go. That works.
I felt like they called them something. I don't know if you've heard the Scared to Death podcast with Dan Cummins and his wife Lindsay. It's a good one. They tell a lot of scary stories that they find online, and yeah, I think they gave them a different name, but I haven't been listening as much as I should be, especially for somebody who's one of their Patreons, that one of their Annabelles. But yeah, I'll look into that. Otherwise, I think I already forgot what word we were gonna put. I need to write it down.
So yeah, Goatman in some variations though, and this is an interesting one. He is in the same family, he or she. I guess if it's Goatman, it's a man, but I don't know. In some variations, he's the same family as Bigfoot and Boa Man, half boa, half man, and that same animal, that same being, also haunts Fletchertown Road in Maryland.
I've never
Now,
heard of Boa Man.
I have not either. Now, I didn't go off on a side quest for Boa Man, but like the fact that Boa Man may exist is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the stories that I've heard about like Bigfoot, Sasquatches in this area, because we're pretty big on it over here, they've been really scary stories. Like it makes you think twice about going to remote areas. Um, and most of the time it's like they're just curious, they just throw rocks and you just want, but I wouldn't want to come across one.
There is a maybe you've seen this show before. What is it called? It's a Bigfoot show on I think History Channel or one of those other channels. But they go out and they hunt Bigfoot and they whether or not they take it seriously, I don't know. But they've apparently figured out the Bigfoot mating call. And so they'll go out in the middle of the woods like midnight and go or whatever the noise is, and like listen for the return call. I'm like, okay, guys, if you're doing the mating call to Bigfoot, what do you think's gonna happen if he's out there? Like he's gonna come, and then you're his mate now. Like, do you want that?
What if you're successful?
What if he's coming to get you? Do you want that on no?
Yeah, what if you're
Oh,
successful? Do you have a plan B?
what is the end goal here of you doing the mating call? But I don't even know how they have this. They figured out the mating call. Like, where did you hear this from? Like, is this a science or is this just you going like, I think it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like a guess and check kind of thing. And you know what? I would do the same thing. I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna make loud noises when I'm in the woods. Yeah, it's a mating call, guys.
No, the scary thing is like, what if like the mating call that's supposed to be Bigfoot's mating call is actually the mating call for Boa Man, and now you got Boa Man getting in on you. You're like, all right, I've asked for Bigfoot and I got a substitute.
Yeah, I was prepared for one thing. I mean, maybe I was prepared for one thing, but I was definitely not prepared for Boa Man. Never even heard of Boa Man. If I came across what I picture as Boa Man in the woods, like done for. I'm done for, guys.
So the last story I think we should cover today on this episode is from West Virginia, and it's called the White Things or the Devil Dogs of West Virginia. And it's literally what they are. They're white dog-like creatures that are usually seen in the Appalachian forest. While people go camping, hiking, and they typically are spotted stalking or watching people from a distance. And some people have had actual close encounters where they've been chased by these things through the woods and almost attacked, and then one case almost killed. But again, that wasn't actually verified. The story was never proven. So, yeah, devil
I haven't
dogs.
heard of that. Yeah, I haven't heard of these the white things, but I've heard of the light. That if you go to the Appalachian, is that how you say the Appalachian?
Hmm.
Appalachian?
I
I
think
know
it's
there's like some
Appalachian.
conversation. I don't want to piss anybody off, but if you go in that area at night, that there are supposed to be these like light orb, and they do the same thing that they follow you. They can't figure out what they're from, but it's supposed to be don't go there at night. Just flat. That was the wording. Don't go there. That's enough for me. Honestly, I'd be curious about it, but I don't know if I would mess with the light things. I don't know if it's around the same thing or if because it sounds pretty similar, especially for being in. I mean, that's a big area, but a similar area too. I'd be curious to
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I don't know, the Appalachian Mountains, they like I'm on that side of TikTok where I get those videos, and I'm sure you've seen the one I reposted, where you get the people that actually live out there and they have houses and they hear noises, and you're not supposed to, go outside or acknowledge the noises. And I don't know, it sounds terrifying. Like in one hand, you're in the middle of nowhere, and you hear these noises, and you don't know what they are. They could be an actual animal, it could be Bigfoot or some kind of white devil or devil dog rather. But I can imagine being scared and terrified of not knowing what is outside your door.
Yeah, I can't imagine not being able to go in my backyard just because I hear something weird out there. Like here, I don't really worry. Like it's probably a deer. But yeah, I can't. It feels like if you live there, you're ready for things to be spooky. Which I've even heard that like about scary stories from like the Midwest. They're like people from the Midwest are supposed to be just different. Where if they hear a scary story, they're just like, get the hell out of here. You're not paying rent or you owe me money kind of thing, and they're out of there. But I could never. I just
No.
crumble and cry.
My mind would go to too many different scenarios. Like it's terrifying. You go on your porch and you see nothing. It's just black darkness. You
Yeah.
just see the woods, and like outside your immediate, 20 feet of vision, there's nothing you see. Like that's the most terrifying part. And I love camping, but I also like camping even out here on the West Coast. Like you get in more foresty areas than in Oregon. But I've heard horror stories, people getting like walked upon by a dude who wants to murder you. Like that is terrifying to me. Like being in the middle of nowhere, not knowing what's around you and like not having any protection.
Yeah, I've only camped at like camp spots, so you know where all the families are. Everybody's there during the day. And granted, I've gone like one time in the last 10 years, but I was kind of scared because I was really deep into my like horror stories. And I was like, ooh, don't feel really safe about this. Because at that point, we were camping up in Washington and it was a pretty remote area. I don't think I had any service out there, but it did feel very safe having all those families around. Being in the middle of nowhere and not hearing like other things and knowing that's a person, don't know about that. Even thinking that could be a person, but I don't know where the next people are. I don't know about that. That's not my kind of camping.
No, no. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm also on the whole like let's listen to these terrifying encounters, the kind of side of YouTube and TikTok and Spotify, where it's like this person goes out and they go hiking and like they are backpacking and they realize day two that someone's following them, and like the terrifying story of running through the woods trying to get to your next campsite and hearing this person or thing behind you keeping up with you, or at some point it's going quiet, which is even worse. Like, are they? Like, where are
Yeah,
you?
you didn't hear them backtrack. Yeah,
Yeah, no.
don't love that. Do not love that. Also, I don't know if we're going to touch on this at all, but what's your stance on aliens?
I'm kind of split. One part of me says aliens definitely exist because the universe is just way too huge for it to be only us. But then again, here's one little side tangent. What if we are the most advanced civilization in the universe and everyone else is behind us in development? So
It's
maybe
not
there are
true.
aliens.
That's a
Um,
little terrifying if we're the most advanced, but also terrifying if there are aliens. I know that's something that just thinking about absolutely scares me to my core. Somebody the other day said the aliens live in the ocean, and I was like, I don't like that.
See, if they're okay, if aliens, that's my thing. It's like if aliens do exist, I don't think they've gotten here yet. But also, like, if they did, look at the climate of the world. Not only is like the climate change happening, but like our world is kind of falling apart everywhere around the world. Like, do you really want to be here hanging out? Like, I don't think anyone on this planet wants to stay on this planet. We want to go somewhere new where it's not so. freaking hectic.
Maybe it's like visiting the moon. Like they're like, we're just here to observe them destroy themselves, which is a little scary too. Help us.
Or if they're causing the destruction.
Oh man,
I've
touche.
I've heard that theory where they're the ones pulling the strings where it's like we're just puppets. And they're like, all right, let's just play with these guys. Like let's see what happens when we try to assassinate the former president. Let's just drop that and see what happens. Like let's drop that bomb and bam.
I mean, touche. I did not think of it that way. What if they are pulling all the strings? Like, let's just see what happens here. It's basically, we are AI to them. It's a
Yeah.
theory. I'm not going to sleep well tonight with that one.
Now the last thing I want to ask you is, you brought up aliens. Do you think time travel exists? Like, do you think people have or could possibly develop the skill to time travel?
I talked to somebody about this recently. At what point did they bring up that if time travel exists, then because we only hear about people going to the past, but what if there's time travelers among us? Like, how do you find somebody and you're like, okay, they're not of this time? Have you ever felt like you're from a different dimension? Because I felt like I was on the wrong timeline before. That brings me back to that left right game. I'm like, what if I accidentally did that?
Okay, one last side tangent I mentioned. There's this movie, and you should watch if you have not watched it. It's called As Above, So Below. It's basically about the catacombs of Paris.
I have not
So
seen it.
it's terrifying. But so these travelers go down, they're led down by an independent person down to the catacombs. And obviously to the public, you can't go down very far. You just go like on the guided tour. Basically, it's like a very tiny little bit of the catacombs. But these people go down there and they get lost and they get like apparently go through the gates of hell, which apparently are down there in some legends. And that's there's a tale of basically getting lost in the catacombs, which is absolutely terrifying to me. Which, one last side note again, you get me on a tangent about this, I'm gonna go off. Um, there's actually a real video. They found a camera in the catacombs by 15 years ago, and it's pretty deep in the catacombs, so very, very far in, and you're like miles below the surface, so you get no cell service down there. And they found the camera and they watched the video back, and there's a guy recording himself looking in the different chambers of dead bodies and like skeletons and stuff like that. And he gets spooked by something, and at some point you hear him running. You see the camera kind of like jostling up and down. He's running down this long hallway and he drops the camera. It's the only source of light. Drops the camera and you see him running off into the dark distance. And so once you lose that light, you're gone. Like you can't find your way back.
Yeah. If he could find his way back to begin, nightmare fuel.
Or no sleep.
Yeah, yeah. Or like, well, now that we've talked about all of these, I don't know if I'm going to be able to listen to a scary story to go to bed tonight.
You got enough from me.
Like that will not lull me to sleep. No, imagine that is nightmare fuel. That's like it is almost like being claustrophobic in the sense that how do you get out? There is no
Yeah.
ending in sight.
Yeah. And like at that point, whether or not it's a ghost or other forces at play, like you're losing it, like because you're panicking and your mind is really just spiraling, and so you're like hallucinating beyond imagination. Like you know that you're screwed and you're gonna die, and like that whole panic trying to get out and just to realize you're screwed up. You done screwed up.
Yeah, and who goes down there by themselves?
Apparently, a lot of people do, which is
There's safety.
there are yeah. There are people in France, Paris, who actually like call themselves cataphiles, I think it is. So they professionally go down, they map these chambers of these stacks of skeletons, and they like go down pretty often and like secretly without the government knowing, and they go down and actually go through the catacombs. Why they
Wow.
would? Terrifying.
It's like the same as like chasing twisters. Like you were living on the edge.
As much as I love the paranormal, I could never find myself doing that. That's something I'll never do.
Yeah, I'm good with the stories. I like the hearing element. Once I get to the seeing element, I'm not as good at it. Like I'm slowly getting into watching scary movies, so I'm like, as above, so below. I'll check it out. I might need to let this like wear off a little bit, so I'll wait a couple days.
Watch it during the day. That's what I'll say. Don't watch it at night. Don't watch it, before you go to bed.
Right. Yeah, your rules. I'm here for it.
All right, Steph. Well, this was a great. I feel like we talked about a lot of different things, and this is fun.
Yeah, we gotta keep diving into the spooky stuff. That's a lot of fun. I mean, I've almost run out of stories, I think, with at least my experiences, but it sounds like you have a plethora of your own personal experiences. And I know that I've heard a lot of these different podcasts and whatnot, and I didn't always used to fall asleep to them, so I actually have heard some of them.
Yeah, no, I have a plethora. So I think we definitely should, listeners, if you like this kind of stuff, you like us diving into paranormal, spooky stuff, just, let us know. Shoot us a email at between state lines podcast at gmail.com or, comment on either of our videos on TikTok and let us know. All right, Steph, we'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week.